Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Are you a history buff who loves learning crazy stuff about the past? Buckle up, because today we're diving into mind-blowing historical facts that will have you saying, "Whoa, I never knew that." From surprising celebrity connections to ancient medical mysteries, we've got a wild ride through time in store for you. So grab your favorite snacks, settle in, and get ready to have your mind officially scrambled. Can you imagine a pig in jail? Well, in France, way back in 1386, that's exactly what happened. A pig attacked a child, and sadly, the child died from their injuries. Back then, people sometimes believed animals could be guilty of crimes, so this pig was arrested and put on trial just like a person. The pig even had its own jail cell. In court, the pig was found guilty and sentenced to the death penalty, hanging. The Great Depression was a terrible time when many people couldn't afford new clothes. But people are resourceful. They got creative and turned everyday things like flour sacks and potato sacks into clothes. These became so popular that the companies that made the sacks started making them in brighter colors and even with patterns. Suddenly, even though they were made from sacks, people could have a bit of fashion in tough times. In Victorian times, people dealt with death differently than we do today. Sometimes, when a loved one passed away, families would take photographs of them. They would carefully dress the deceased in their best clothes and pose them for a picture, almost as if they were still alive. This was a way for families to hold on to a final image of their loved one and to remember them in a special way. The war between Britain and Zanzibar is known as the shortest war in history, clocking in at a mere 38 minutes. It all happened in 1896 on the island of Zanzibar. Britain and Zanzibar couldn't agree on who should be the next sultan or king. Britain won the war quickly, taking control of Zanzibar. Can you imagine teams competing in a tug-of-war at the Olympics? Believe it or not, that was a real event back in the day. Tug-of-war was actually part of the Summer Olympic Games for a while, appearing in 5 different games between 1900 and 1920. It must have been quite the test of strength and teamwork. Britain turned out to be the most powerful pullers, winning the most medals in this unusual sport. The USA came in second with a respectable showing of 3 medals. The University of Oxford is no ordinary school. It boasts a history that stretches way back to 1096, when it first opened its doors to students. That means Oxford has been educating young minds for over 900 years. To put that in perspective, the mighty Aztec Empire, known for its impressive cities and culture, wasn't even founded until 1325 with the building of Tenochtitlan, so Oxford is seriously old school. Elizabeth Bathory, a countess from Hungary, holds the terrible title of the most famous female serial killer. History tells a horrifying tale of her torturing and killing over 650 young women, most of them tragically young girls between the ages of 10 and 14. Her crimes are a chilling reminder of the darkness that can exist in the world. Victory in World War II was a cause for immense celebration in Russia. The entire Soviet Union erupted in joyous street parties that lasted for days on end. People were so excited that they completely underestimated the amount of vodka needed for such a momentous occasion. The party came to a screeching halt a mere 22 hours in, when the entire country's vodka reserves were depleted. Talk about running out of fuel for the celebration. The Medals of Honor, awarded to America's bravest soldiers, have a long and proud tradition. The very first ones were presented during the American Civil War. In 1862, a daring mission known as the Great Locomotive Chase saw a group of Union soldiers attempt to capture a Confederate train. Their bravery in this raid earned them the very first Medals of Honor. Did you know that the tall and lanky President Abraham Lincoln was once a champion wrestler? Standing at an impressive 6'4", Lincoln was a force to be reckoned with in the wrestling ring back in his younger days. He even has a spot in the Wrestling Hall of Fame thanks to his amazing record, only one loss out of a whopping 300 matches. Imagine President Lincoln throwing his opponent around the ring. After serving as president, George Washington decided to put his hand to a new venture, making whiskey. He opened his own distillery, and by 1799 it had become the biggest distillery in the entire country. Washington's distillery produced a staggering 11,000 gallons of whiskey a year, which sounds like a lot, and for your health it probably was. Even though they're called witch trials, the Salem witch trials in 1692 didn't actually involve burning people at the stake. That's a common misconception. While the accusations were terrifying and many people were wrongly accused, the punishments were mostly jail time. Sadly, some people were even hanged. Thankfully, out of the roughly 2,000 people accused of witchcraft, none were burned alive. President Zachary Taylor's death in 1850 is a strange one. It all happened on a seemingly harmless Independence Day celebration. President Taylor ate a ton of cherries and then followed it up with a glass of milk. Unfortunately, some folks believe that cherries and milk don't mix well, and it made him very sick. He died just a few days later from a digestive illness. President Andrew Jackson had a unique pet, a parrot, but this wasn't your average squawking parrot. Andrew apparently taught his parrot, Polly, how to swear like a sailor. There's even a story that Polly got kicked out of Andrew Jackson's funeral because it wouldn't stop swearing in front of everyone. The tasty brunch drink, the Bloody Mary, has a surprisingly gory name. But believe it or not, it wasn't always called that. When it was first invented, it had a much less appetizing name, a bucket of blood. Over time, people must have decided that name wasn't very appealing, so it went through a couple of changes before finally settling on the now famous Bloody Mary. During the fierce battles of World War II, a Great Dane named Juliana proved to be a real hero. One terrifying night, a bomb fell from the sky and started a fire, but Juliana, brave as can be, sprang into action. She ran right up to the burning bomb and used her incredible aim to pee on it, putting out the flames and saving lives. For her bravery, Juliana was even awarded a special medal, the Blue Cross Medal, for her service. Alexander the Great was a mighty warrior king, but the details surrounding his death are a bit mysterious. Scientists believe he might have suffered from a rare illness called Guillain-Barré syndrome. This condition can cause temporary paralysis and make someone appear dead, even though they're still conscious. So it's possible that Alexander wasn't actually dead when he was buried, but tragically paralyzed and unable to communicate. Ancient Rome is famous for its gladiatorial battles, but did you know there were even female fighters? These courageous women were called gladiatrices and were just as skilled and deadly as their male counterparts. However, unlike the male gladiators who fought frequently, female gladiatorial battles were much rarer and considered a special spectacle. Forget the stereotypical pirate captain with a peg leg and an eye patch. Qing Shi's story is far more fascinating. She started out as a worker in China, but life took an unexpected turn when she married the powerful leader of a pirate fleet. Her husband, recognizing her intelligence and leadership skills, treated her as an equal. After his death, Qing Shi took full command of the fleet and became one of the most successful pirates in history, ruling over thousands of fearsome pirates. The name Avengers might conjure up images of superheroes in movies, but there was also a real-life group called the Avengers after World War II. This wasn't a team with superpowers, but a group of determined individuals dedicated to finding and bringing Nazi war criminals to justice. They tracked down Nazis who had escaped punishment and ensured they faced the consequences of their horrific actions. Their work, while not as flashy as superheroes, played a vital role in bringing closure to the victims of the war. Believe it or not, the Olympics weren't always just about athletic competitions. For a period between 1912 and 1948, the Olympics even included competitions for different art forms. Artists from all over the world competed for medals by creating paintings, sculptures, and even music. Of course, all the artwork had to be inspired by the Olympic spirit and ideals of sportsmanship and athletic excellence. Napoleon Bonaparte was a powerful emperor known for his strategic military mind. But even the mightiest leaders can face unexpected challenges. One day, Napoleon decided to go on a rabbit hunt for some recreation. When the rabbits were released from their cages, everyone expected them to scatter and be easy targets. But to everyone's surprise, the rabbits decided to fight back. In a hilarious turn of events, the rabbits charged right at Napoleon and his soldiers in a relentless furry wave, leaving them bewildered and frustrated. This unexpected bunny rebellion became a story that continues to be told even today. Believe it or not, even though Cleopatra is known as the famous Queen of Egypt, she wasn't actually Egyptian. Historians say she was actually Greek. Her family line goes back to a famous Greek general named Ptolemy, who worked for Alexander the Great. Ketchup is a tasty tomato sauce we love on fries today, but did you know it used to be sold as medicine? Back in the 1830s, a doctor named John Cook from Ohio thought ketchup could cure upset stomachs. It wasn't until much later in the late 1800s that people started using it as a condiment. Number 1. Saved by the Bell. Many people believe the saying "Saved by the Bell" comes from a time when bells were attached to coffins. The idea is that if someone was accidentally buried alive, they could ring the bell to get help. However, this story is most likely not true. The term "saved by the bell" actually comes from the world of boxing. In boxing matches, a bell rings at the end of each round, which signals the end of that fighting period. If a boxer is in trouble during a round, the bell saves them from taking any more hits until the next round starts. Number 2. Twice a survivor. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a very fortunate man. He was in Hiroshima, Japan for work when the atomic bomb was dropped on August 6, 1945. He was incredibly lucky to survive the blast, even though he was very close to the explosion. The next day he traveled to Nagasaki, another city in Japan. Sadly, on August 9th, another atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Remarkably, Tsutomu also survived this second explosion. He is the only person known to have survived both atomic bombings. Number 3. Unexploded danger. After World War I, many bombs and other explosives were left behind on battlefields in France and Belgium. Unfortunately, not all of these explosives went off during the war. This means that even today these leftover bombs can be dangerous. Over 1,000 people, including civilians and those trying to safely remove the explosives, have died from accidents caused by these leftover bombs since the war ended in 1918. Number 4. A humble scientist. Albert Einstein was a brilliant scientist who made many important discoveries. He was also offered the chance to become the president of Israel in 1952. However, even though he was Jewish, he politely declined the offer. He explained that he didn't feel he had the necessary skills and experience to be a good leader, and that he was more comfortable focusing on his scientific work. Number 5. Taking credit. Thomas Edison is often credited with inventing the light bulb and many other things. However, the truth is that he didn't actually invent many of the things he is credited with. He was a very successful businessman who often took credit for the work of other inventors. This means that while he may have improved on existing ideas or made them more practical for use, he didn't necessarily come up with the original ideas himself. Number 6. Respecting differences. Genghis Khan was a powerful ruler who conquered a vast empire. While he was a follower of a religion called Tengrism, he was also known for being tolerant of other religions. He was interested in learning about different beliefs and even allowed people of different faiths to practice their religions freely within his empire. This was unusual for leaders of his time, who often tried to force their own religion on others. Number 7. From pirate to rum label. The familiar face on the Captain Morgan rum bottle actually belonged to a real person named Sir Henry Morgan. He wasn't just a rum drinker, but a Welsh privateer who sailed the Caribbean seas during the 17th century. Privateers were basically licensed pirates who worked for their government, in this case England, to attack enemy ships and cities. Sir Henry Morgan led many successful raids against the Spanish, who were England's rivals at the time. He was even knighted by King Charles II of England for his service, which is why he earned the title Sir. Number 8. Turkeys from feathered gods to Thanksgiving dinner. In ancient times, the Mayan people of Central America had a very different view of turkeys than we do today. They didn't just eat them for Thanksgiving, they actually worshipped them. The Maya believed turkeys were special creatures connected to their gods. They held ceremonies and rituals honoring these feathered deities. While we no longer worship turkeys, they remain a significant symbol in Mayan culture and history. Number 9. A strange and cruel sport. In the 17th and 18th centuries, Europe's wealthy class participated in a bizarre and cruel activity called fox tossing. As the name suggests, it involved literally throwing a live fox as far and high as possible. This sport was considered entertainment for the elite, but thankfully it is no longer practiced today. It's important to remember that what people find entertaining changes over time, and what was once seen as acceptable can now be seen as cruel and inhumane. Number 10. The origin of flying off the handle. The saying "to fly off the handle" is commonly used to describe someone who loses their temper quickly or becomes very angry. But where did this strange expression come from? It actually originated in the 1800s and is linked to poorly made axes. Back then, some axes had heads that were not securely attached to the handles. If someone swung the axe too hard, the head could become loose and literally fly off the handle. Over time, the phrase evolved to describe someone who loses control of their emotions, just like an axe head flying off its handle. Number 11. Tiny reminders of a big event. The beaches of Normandy, France are famous for being the site of a major World War II battle. While the beaches may appear peaceful today, they hold a hidden secret. Scientists studying the sand have discovered tiny pieces of metal, remnants of the bombs and weapons used during the landings. These microscopic bits of shrapnel are like a physical reminder of the significant historical events that took place on those very shores. Number 12. An act of respect in war. During World War II, a fierce battle took place between Japanese forces and British ships in the Pacific Ocean. The British ships were unfortunately sunk, and many lives were lost on both sides. The next day, a Japanese pilot named Haruki Iki returned to the location of the battle. Instead of attacking, he did something unexpected and brave. He dropped 2 wreaths of flowers into the ocean, a gesture of respect and honor for the fallen soldiers from both sides of the conflict. This act of compassion showed humanity amidst the war's brutality. Number 13. The unsolved mystery of the Voynich manuscript. Imagine a book written in a language that nobody can understand, not even the smartest scientists and code breakers. That's the Voynich manuscript. This mysterious book, written around 600 years ago, is filled with strange symbols and drawings. Experts have tried for years to decipher its meaning and origin, but it remains a complete mystery. Some even believe it might be a code or contain magical instructions, adding to the intrigue. Number 14. Greek fire, the burning nightmare. In ancient naval battles, empires fought fiercely for control of the seas. One weapon that struck fear in the hearts of sailors was Greek fire. This unique weapon was a type of liquid flamethrower used on ships. What made it so terrifying was that throwing water on it only made the fire worse. The exact ingredients of Greek fire remain a secret, but its burning power and effectiveness helped shape the course of naval warfare for centuries. Number 15. Deception during wartime. World War I was a brutal and devastating conflict. To gain an advantage, countries used various tactics, including deception. France, fearing German air raids on their capital city, Paris, decided to be creative. They built a replica of Paris, complete with famous landmarks like the Champs-Élysées, but further inland and away from the real city. This fake Paris fooled German pilots, who wasted their bombs on the empty replica, protecting the real city and its citizens. Number 16. Keeping up British traditions. Even in war, the British are known for their love of tea, and this tradition extends even to the battlefield. After losing several tanks during World War II, while soldiers were taking a tea break, the British military decided to take action. They equipped their tanks with special tea-making kits, ensuring that soldiers could have their cup of tea even in the midst of war. This small comfort helped boost morale and maintain a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. Number 17. Shrapnel, a legacy of innovation and destruction. Henry Shrapnel, a British military officer, lived during the late 18th and early 19th centuries. He saw the devastating effects of traditional cannons in battle and aimed for a more efficient and deadly weapon. He invented a type of artillery shell filled with small metal balls. Upon exploding, the shell would burst, scattering these metal fragments at high speed, inflicting serious injuries on enemy soldiers. This invention unfortunately revolutionized warfare, adding a new layer of danger and destruction to the battlefield. Shrapnel, named after its inventor, sadly became synonymous with the horrors of war. Number 18. Putting history in perspective. Cleopatra, the last active pharaoh of ancient Egypt, lived a life closer to our own time than to the building of the Great Pyramids. While the pyramids were constructed around 400–500 years ago, Cleopatra's reign lasted from 51 BC to 30 BC, roughly 2,000 years ago. This fact helps put into perspective the vast stretch of time that has passed since these historical events. Number 19. Fashion through the ages. Today, skirts are typically associated with women's clothing. However, things were quite different in ancient Greece. Back then, men wore skirts as a symbol of masculinity and freedom. In contrast, pants were considered unmanly and often associated with foreigners. This perspective shifted over time, and today pants are more widely accepted for both men and women. Number 20. Using everyday items for espionage. During World War II, planning for the D-Day invasion, a critical moment in the war, required careful strategic planning. One unusual tactic involved collecting seemingly ordinary items, postcards. British intelligence, led by General Frederick Morgan, realized that postcards depicting the French coastline could hold valuable information about the beaches and potential landing sites. By analyzing these postcards, they could identify the most suitable locations for the D-Day landings, ultimately contributing to the success of the operation. Number 21. The Vikings, America's early visitors. While many people believe Christopher Columbus discovered America, the truth is Vikings from Greenland, led by Leif Erikson, reached North America around the year 1000 AD, almost 500 years before Columbus's voyages. They settled in Newfoundland and explored further north in present-day Canada, leaving behind evidence of their settlements. This adds to the rich history of the Americas and reminds us that exploration and interaction between different cultures happened much earlier than commonly thought. Number 22. The Colosseum's changing appearance. The Colosseum in Rome is a famous landmark, but it wasn't always the way we see it today. Originally, it was covered in beautiful white marble, making it even grander. However, after the fall of the Roman Empire, the city experienced a period of decline and chaos. People called the Goths raided the city and took the valuable marble from the Colosseum for their own purposes. This left the building exposed, with the empty spaces where the marble once was, creating the pockmarked appearance we see today. It serves as a reminder of the rise and fall of empires and the impact they have on structures and landscapes. Number 23. Estimating wealth across time. It's challenging to compare wealth across different historical periods because money and its value change significantly over time. However, historians have estimated that Roman Emperor Augustus Caesar, who ruled from 27 BC to 14 AD, might have been the richest person ever. They calculated his net worth to be around 460 billion in today's dollars, considering inflation. This incredible wealth came from various sources, including taxes, conquered lands and trade. It's important to remember that while such estimates offer interesting insights, they are not entirely accurate and should be interpreted cautiously. Number 24. The Great Fire of London, more than just destruction. The Great Fire of London in 1666 was a devastating event, destroying over 13,500 houses and forcing 80,000 people from their homes. The fire raged for several days, causing widespread panic and destruction. However, despite the immense damage, it's surprising to learn that only 6 people lost their lives in the fire. This relatively low death toll is attributed to several factors, including the fact that the fire primarily destroyed wooden structures, which burned quickly and allowed people to escape. Additionally, the fire occurred during the day, giving residents more time to flee. Number 25. From real-life ruler to fictional vampire. The iconic character of Count Dracula from Bram Stoker's famous novel was actually inspired by a real historical figure named Vlad III Dracula, also known as Vlad the Impaler. He ruled Wallachia, a region in present-day Romania, from 1448 to 1476. Vlad was known for his brutal methods of punishment, particularly impaling his enemies on wooden stakes. While Stoker took creative liberties and added fictional elements to his character, the inspiration for Dracula's ruthlessness and connection to Eastern Europe came from this historical figure. This connection adds depth to the character and reminds us of the impact real-life events and figures can have on literature and popular culture. The longest war without battles, the Dutch Scilly War, spanning 335 years from 1651 to 1986, is a peculiar historical anomaly. Triggered by the Dutch siding with the parliamentarians during the English Civil War, the war had no battles or deaths. The Dutch demanded reparations from the royalists in the Isles of Scilly, but eventually forgot about the conflict, and the war remained technically unresolved. Hitler's nephew, fighting against Nazis, William Patrick Hitler, nephew of Adolf Hitler, took a surprising stance during World War II. Instead of aligning with his infamous uncle, he was drafted into the United States Navy and served as a hospital corpsman. Wounded in action, he earned the Purple Heart and ultimately gained American citizenship. The tragic tale of Surgeon Robert Liston. Renowned as the fastest knife in the West, Surgeon Robert Liston was a pioneer in speed surgery during the 19th century. However, a shocking incident during a battlefield amputation resulted in a 300% mortality rate. Liston's rapid actions inadvertently led to the death of a spectator from a heart attack, and both the patient and his assistant succumbed to blood poisoning from the joint amputation. Great Depression. Dance marathons. The Great Depression brought about unique challenges, leading to the emergence of dance marathons. These human endurance contests served as a means for financially unstable married couples to secure shelter and food for a few days. Participants would take turns dancing, with one partner dancing while the other slept, providing a temporary solution to economic hardships. Genghis Khan's prolific legacy. Genghis Khan, the Mongolian emperor known for his conquests, left a remarkable legacy in terms of his genetic influence. A study conducted in 2003 revealed that approximately 1 in 200 men share a Y chromosome with Genghis Khan, highlighting the extent of his prolific lineage. Mustache cups in Victorian England. In Victorian England, men with moustaches had a unique item designed specifically for them: moustache cups. These cups featured guards to prevent a man's moustache from dipping into their warm tea. This quirky historical detail reflects the importance placed on facial hair etiquette during that era. The longest year in human history, the year 46. BC earned the nickname the Year of Confusion due to its extraordinary length of 445 days. This anomaly occurred because Julius Caesar inserted 2 additional leap months into the calendar, aiming to align the newly formed Julian calendar with the seasonal year. Freedom through lawsuits for slaves. In colonial America, slaves had a slim chance of winning their freedom through lawsuits. While the odds were low, success in court meant that the slave was granted freedom and recognized as a citizen. Since slaves often lacked last names, they were often given the surname Freeman upon achieving citizenship. The Leaning Tower of Pisa's notorious tilt. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, an iconic Italian bell tower, is renowned for its distinctive 4-degree lean. Constructed in the 12th century, the tower began tilting during the construction of its second story due to unstable ground conditions. Iceland's ancient parliament. Iceland boasts the world's oldest parliament, known as the Althing, established in 930. This assembly has continued to function as the acting parliament of Iceland since its inception, illustrating the nation's enduring commitment to democratic governance. Alexander the Great city naming. Alexander the Great, conqueror of vast territories, named over 70 cities after himself. His extensive conquests, covering more than 2 million square miles of the Earth's surface by the age of 30, earned him the right to leave an indelible mark on the map. Cleopatra's multilingual abilities. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt, was not only the first member of her dynasty to speak ancient Egyptian, but also demonstrated proficiency in 8 other languages. Her linguistic talents included ancient Greek, ancient Iranian, ancient Parthian, Syriac, Ethiopian, Troglodyte, Hebrew and Arabic. World War II National School Lunch Program. The establishment of America's National School Lunch Program in 1946 was influenced by World War II. Recognizing the importance of the health of the nation's children, the government provided free meals to students, aiming to maintain a healthy draft pool if needed. Paul Tibbets' unconventional farewell. Paul Tibbets, the pilot of the Enola Gay, which dropped the first nuclear bomb on Hiroshima, opted for an unconventional farewell. Concerned that his funeral might become a site for protesting nuclear armament, Tibbets chose not to have a funeral or headstone. Instead, he was cremated, and his ashes were scattered over the English Channel. Medieval pronunciation of ask. In medieval England, the word ask was pronounced as axe. This pronunciation persisted for a considerable period and even found its way into the first English translation of the Bible, stating, "Axe, and it shall be given." Native American leaders visiting Queen Anne. In 1710, 4 Native American leaders representing the Mohawk and Algonquian peoples traveled to Britain to visit Queen Anne. Treated with great honor as diplomats, they were transported through the streets of London in royal carriages and personally met by Queen Anne at the court of St. James Palace. Creation of the 7.62mm rifle bullet. The 7.62mm rifle bullet, used in the AK-47 ammunition, was created 129 years ago by the Russian Empire in 1891. Originally designed for the Mosin Nagant bolt-action rifle, this ammunition has stood the test of time and continues to be in use today. Shakespeare's Yo Mama joke. The origins of the Yo Mama joke can be traced back to Shakespeare's play Titus Andronicus. In a scene, one character accuses another by saying, "Thou hast undone our mother," to which the reply is, "Villain, I have done thy mother." Hollywood's move to escape patents. Hollywood's shift from New York to Los Angeles was partly motivated by the desire to escape Thomas Edison's patents. Edison held patents on various technologies crucial for high-end filmmaking. Filmmakers in California found a more favorable environment where judges were less sympathetic to Edison's patent claims. Charles Darwin's wheeled office chair. Charles Darwin, in his pursuit of scientific inquiry, invented his own wheeled office chair. Motivated by the need for efficiency in navigating his study area, Darwin attached wheels to his armchair to save valuable study time. Circus Maximum as the largest arena. The Circus Maximum in Rome still holds the record as the largest capacity sports arena ever built. Used for various events including executions, Roman triumph celebrations, and chariot racing, it could accommodate an astonishing 150,000 to 250,000 people simultaneously. Spartan wealth and lack of labor. Ancient Sparta, known for its militaristic society, was so wealthy that its citizens didn't need to engage in manual labor. This affluence was primarily attributed to their conquest and domination of neighboring territories. Upon reaching adulthood, Spartan men were awarded public farmland and a contingent of helot slaves to work it, ensuring a life free from mundane labor. Ancient Egyptian use of slaves as flycatchers. Ancient Egyptian pharaohs employed a peculiar method to deal with flies. They used slaves as human flycatchers. Slaves would be coated in honey to attract and trap flies, thereby serving as living flycatchers to protect the pharaohs from these nuisances. Roman triumph and crude songs. During a Roman triumph, a grand parade celebrating a victorious Roman general and his army, soldiers engaged in an unexpected custom. They would sing lewd and banter-like songs about their commanders to entertain the crowds. This form of raucous celebration added a lively aspect to the triumphant processions. George Washington's not-so-wooden teeth. Contrary to the popular legend, George Washington did not have wooden teeth. The first American president's dentures were a sophisticated combination of materials including gold, lead, ivory, and a mixture of animal and human teeth. This historical correction dispels the enduring myth surrounding Washington's dental prosthetics. Hans Scharf was a master interrogator for the German Luftwaffe during World War II. His unique approach to extracting information from prisoners was characterized by kindness and unconventional methods. Instead of resorting to harsh tactics, Scharf took prisoners on nature walks without guards, baked them homemade food, cracked jokes, shared beers, and even enjoyed afternoon tea with German fighter aces. Remarkably, his humane techniques were so successful that the United States military later incorporated some of his methods into their own interrogation schools. In ancient times, particularly in certain parts of Asia, death by elephant was a gruesome and popular form of execution. Elephants were trained to carry out brutal acts such as breaking bones, crushing skulls, twisting off limbs, and even executing people using large blades attached to their tusks. Shockingly, this method persisted in some regions until the late 19th century. Surprisingly, there was a time when using forks was considered sacrilegious and offensive to God. The reason behind this belief was that forks were viewed as artificial hands, and their usage was deemed inappropriate. This perspective has significantly evolved over time, and today forks are commonplace eating utensils. The famous nursery rhyme, "Mary Had a Little Lamb," is rooted in reality. Mary Sawyer, an 11-year-old girl from Boston, had a pet lamb that actually followed her to school. In the late 1860s, Mary Sawyer played a role in raising money for an old church by selling wool from her beloved lamb. During the 16th century, a bizarre and macabre trend among the wealthy elite involved the consumption of dead bodies, particularly Egyptian mummies. There was a belief that these cadavers possessed healing properties and could cure various diseases. Strangely enough, one of the highest delicacies of the time was rumored to be the consumption of mummies. Winston Churchill, the iconic British leader during World War II, was renowned for his love of cigars. He smoked a staggering 8 to 10 cigars a day, and on some occasions, this number even reached 15. During the era of American prohibition, Churchill would obtain a doctor's note, allowing him to consume indefinite amounts of alcohol during his visits to the United States. Approximately 100 million years ago, the Sahara Desert, now known for its arid conditions, was a lush oasis teeming with life. Fossil discoveries in 2009 revealed the existence of crocodiles with large land-going legs, capable of galloping across the land at remarkable speeds. In a gruesome practice following the Battle of Waterloo, dentists would rush to battlefields to collect teeth from deceased soldiers. These harvested teeth were then used to craft dentures for the wealthy elite. This unsettling method highlights the historical intersection of war and dentistry. Roman Emperor Gaius, commonly known as Caligula, had an extraordinary fondness for his horse named Incitatus. The emperor went to great lengths to pamper his beloved horse, providing it with a marble stall, an ivory manger, a jeweled collar, and even a dedicated house. There were even rumors that Caligula planned to appoint Incitatus as a consul before his untimely assassination. On January 15, 1919, Boston experienced an unusual and tragic event known as the Boston Molasses Disaster. A massive cast-iron tank filled with 2.5 million gallons of molasses exploded, unleashing a wave of sticky molasses that flooded the streets. The resulting devastation included toppled buildings, drowned horses, and, tragically, 21 fatalities with 150 injuries. Following the beheading of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette during the French Revolution, people reportedly dipped handkerchiefs in their blood as morbid souvenirs. In 2011, scientists confirmed the authenticity of a blood-stained handkerchief dating back to approximately 1793, soaked in the blood of Louis XVI. In 1644, English statesman Oliver Cromwell imposed a ban on eating pies, declaring it a pagan form of pleasure. This prohibition lasted for 16 years, during which pie-related activities, both making and eating, went underground. The ban was eventually lifted in 1660 with the Restoration. Founding fathers and early U.S. presidents John Adams and Thomas Jefferson shared a remarkable coincidence in their deaths. Both men, who played pivotal roles in the American Revolution, passed away on July 4, 1826, exactly 50 years after the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. Adams's last words, "Jefferson lives," were spoken in unawareness of Jefferson's earlier demise on the same day. Joan of Arc, a young French woman, had an extraordinary life during the 15th century. Convinced of her divine mission, she successfully led French armies to victory despite having no military experience. Joan survived a 60-foot escape leap from a tower, faced false accusations of heresy, and tragically was burned at the stake between the ages of 17 and 19. The volcanic eruption of Krakatoa in 1883 was so powerful that the sound ruptured eardrums of people located 40 miles away. The reverberations traveled around the world 4 times and were audibly heard as far as 3,000 miles away. The sheer magnitude of this event underscores the force of nature. In an unconventional historical employment, the South African Railway once enlisted a baboon as an employee. Surprisingly, this baboon served for 8 years without making a single mistake, showcasing an unexpected and amusing chapter in labor history. The 15th century witnessed an unexpected literary work from an unexpected author, Pope Pius II. Titled The Tale of Two Lovers, this erotic novel became one of the best-selling books of its time. The notion of a pope penning an erotic narrative adds an intriguing layer to the multifaceted history of the Vatican. It is estimated that around 97% of human history has been lost over time. The advent of written accounts of history began roughly 6,000 years ago, leaving the vast majority of human existence undocumented. This fact emphasizes the challenges historians face in piecing together the narrative of our past. Before Julius Caesar's invasions, there were doubts among Romans about the existence of Britain as a distinct land. Julius Caesar, making history as the first Roman to invade Britain in 55 and 54 BC, encountered skepticism among his compatriots. Some Romans believed Britain to be merely the foot of a larger northern continent, while others speculated about unimaginable riches or outright non-existence. During the Soviet era in the late 20th century, The mention of Genghis Khan's name became a punishable offense in the USSR. Soviet authorities actively worked to erase Genghis Khan's story from school textbooks and prohibited pilgrimages to his birthplace in Khenti. This effort to suppress the memory of the great Mongolian conqueror reflects the ideological control exerted by the Soviet regime. The guillotine, infamous for its use during the French Revolution, was introduced as a means to establish equality in execution. Before its widespread adoption, France employed savage methods of execution, such as drawing and quartering. The guillotine, intended as a more humane and egalitarian form of capital punishment, symbolized the revolutionary ideals of the time. Adolf Hitler played an unexpected role in the design of the iconic Volkswagen Beetle. Collaborating with Ferdinand Porsche, the Beetle was conceived as part of Hitler's initiative to create an affordable and practical car for the German people. This collaboration resulted in the development of the distinct bug-like car that would later become a cultural icon. In ancient Egypt, where the head was considered the seat of spiritual life, people used slabs of stone as pillows. This practice aimed to ensure the well-being of the head, reflecting the cultural significance attached to this part of the body. The origin of human artistic expression can be traced back roughly 100,000 years ago during the Upper Paleolithic era. Homo sapiens, our early ancestors, left behind the oldest known artworks in a cave in what is now France. This discovery marks the beginning of a rich artistic tradition that has evolved over millennia. During World War II, Americans underwent a renaming of certain food items to eliminate associations with the enemy. Hamburgers, sounding too German, were humorously referred to as Liberty Steaks. Similarly, sauerkraut underwent a patriotic rebranding as Liberty Cabbage. History is a tapestry woven with remarkable stories, and we hope this video has sparked your curiosity. If you enjoyed the content, hit the like button, share with fellow enthusiasts, and subscribe for more intriguing discoveries. Share your thoughts in the comments about the historical fact that surprised you the most. As we unravel the mysteries of the past, stay curious, keep learning, and continue exploring the wonders of history together. Thank you for being part of our community, and until next time, stay amazed.